Welcome to the Men Are Forged podcast. I'm your host, Cartwright Morris. Men Are Forged, we are about the advancement and growth of young professional men in life and career. If this is your first time listening, I, Cartwright Morris, here offer coaching courses and content to do just that. So if you are a young professional struggling in career, in your life for direction, needing guidance, please go to menarforged.com and subscribe to my newsletter as well. Schedule a coaching session today. All right. I like to do these from time to time. One, because I'm just an avid movie watcher, and also I just love the power of story. So this is what I've learned from story through It's a Wonderful Life. Now, I'm not one of those, like, immediately when Halloween ends, November 1st, it's Christmas time type people. I imagine I'm much more like most people, most sane people. Christmas season starts after Thanksgiving. Once your belly's full on Thanksgiving, you watch football, you've seen Santa at the Macy's Day Parade. It's kind of like, all right, that's kind of when we start playing a little Christmas music, maybe Thanksgiving night. That makes sense, right? So, so don't get me wrong here, but I figured it was good timing since probably this movie will be on TV if any of you still have cable, or I'm sure one of the streaming sites will have this movie available. It's a Wonderful Life, and I hope you will see it. The director of the film has done many of these type movies that are really good. I recommend. He has more than one. I talk about it in my interview with Grant Skeldon, the last interview I did, and this is what just perked my interest, that I really feel like we need to break this down. Oh my God, I got to break it down. All right? It's a big deal, people. All right? Okay. All right, so It's a Wonderful Life. Movie's 80 years old, so spoiler alert is really not in effect here, but I will have some spoilers, okay? So what do we got here? Really, we see George. I love the way Grant put it, man of the city. He was a faithful leader. He's a guy who showed up, who helped people, put his ambitions, there's the word, aside just for others. But there's key moments that I think we can learn from in the movie, when you watch the movie, where if we're not careful, despite our character, despite our virtue in making these decisions, bitterness and disappointment can set in. And that's really the climax or the crux of the movie. I don't know what literary term I'm supposed to use here. But anyway, it's just funny. I've kind of started thinking through the movie. I've seen it so many damn times. One is probably the big one is he's looking to leave, and his dad dies. I'm pretty sure that's the first real big kicker. He's like he's got a suitcase, and even when his dad dies, like, his brother's supposed to take over for him. His brother's supposed to take over for his dad for the Bailey Building and Loan, and his dad's been holding up this city as he's been this, like, virtuous guy in his life, his leader, his mentor, his guy he's looked up to for so long. And you see this thing that happens where his brother, he got a big job and he couldn't let him not take it. But George is like, I want to go live my life. I want to travel the world. I want to see buildings. I want to do all these things. But they kind of, this crimson moment is like, if you don't take this job, we're going to have to sell to Potter. And Potter is the villain of the film. guy, basically greedy, money grabbing type, classic villain, right? Classic capitalist. Wink, wink. Actually, George Bailey's a capitalist in this film too. So, anywho, but we see that he reluctantly chooses to take the role for the sake of the city, for the sake of his family, carrying on the legacy of his dad, of helping others, being in a Bailey Building and Loan. And you see right then and there, like the first, and this is really what you see throughout all these different points in the story, is the tension that and this is what I hope that you take from this, is what's the tension between your character, the things that matter to you, like family, like the well-being of others, of a city, of those who can't take, that need loans to put a roof over their house for their family, that kind of stuff. And your ambitions and your personal desires, your passions, the things that you get excited about, the freedom to go do these things. Like that tension is always happening in life. What will you put aside for the benefit of others? Or what is actually unhealthy for you to put aside for others, that it just maybe they're manipulating you and you don't have boundaries. So there's that tension as well. But from the standpoint of this story is you see George's character, and that's when like the seed of bitterness and disappointment comes in. That it's hard for us to do is not when we actually choose our character, we choose to help people over our own ambitions, our own passions. We have to do that with nothing in return. And sometimes, and George, we see he's a faithful guy, and he's just willing to help people because he knows that's how he's raised, that's who his character is. But you see, nothing in return is he's constantly feeling that, well, one day the return is I'll get to leave. I'll get to go live the life I actually want. And I just got to get there. I just got to take care of these people, make sure they're doing fine, and then I'll move on. Life just sometimes just doesn't work like that. And through this story, that's what we find out. The next one is realizing he's in love with Mary, and he wants to marry her. And so he decides, you see this reluctant guy, he's just almost like, he doesn't want to marry. I was like, I'm getting out of here, okay? And she like even starts crying or something. And then he chooses to, it's really kind of aggressive, I guess, in the 40s and 50s. I guess that was okay to grab a woman like that. I don't know. I hope not. And it was really funny. It's a real romantic moment. She's crying, he's crying, and he's like shaking her. And anyway, it's kind of funny now thinking about it. But then you see the next is he gets married, and then all of a sudden something happened with the Bailey Building Loan, and he's like, he's about to go on his honeymoon. And he's finally like, I am going to actually experience the world, have these adventures, but I'm going to come back, but I'm just going to do this with my wife for a bit. Well, they got all the money for their honeymoon, and everybody's wants their cash because I think it's the Great Depression. I think that's what's happening. And he ends up, forgive me for you big Christmas movie buffs if I've got all these out of order, but I'm just kind of giving some highlights here. So Potter is basically giving people money, a couple of cents on the dollar, versus George. They want their money back at whatever's in the bank, out of the bank. But he's using what's in the bank to give a loan to these people. And you see all the connecting dots of whoever is giving money is affording others. And anyway, there's this moment where he has to give, Mary ends up giving it away because of her character. And them as a couple deciding they're not going on a honeymoon because the cash they have they're going to actually use to give to others and make others people feel safe, that they have cash, they have something people to take care of. And it's a powerful moment because he puts himself aside for the benefit of the town. And we see down the road in the movie that if he had not stepped in, what would happen? Even though he doesn't realize that, but what would happen? And then the next big one is he's done something really great. Is he's made a housing development for people, for immigrants, for friends, for people that couldn't afford a house, and he creates that for people. But in the end of that, it's supposed to be this big celebration. But what ends up happening is his rich buddy Sam Wainwright, his childhood friend, shows up, who's a big shot, I'm guessing millionaire, who lives in New York, and he shows up in his fancy car, and it's just fascinating, just the dynamic that happens with, right after he leaves, he sees this glimpse of, because I think Sam offered him a job at one point, of what I could have had. Here was a door for me to walk through to get out of this town and not feel so tied to it. And you can kind of lose perspective when that bitterness, the disappointment of what you could have, the regret, and you see that window or that door you could have walked through, and that bitterness can start taking root. And that disappointment, that hurt, and you start even resenting the strength of your character and why you made the decisions you made. I mean, that's the thing at the end of the day, is what's our driving force behind our decisions that lead us to who we are, to lead us to making high character decisions, right? So what do? Yeah, we have to lean into why we made the decision and not forget that part. Right? Because unfortunately, that's what happens. We forget the reason why we make the decision, and we so fixated on the lost ambition, on the lost thing that we could have had. And that only leads to resentment, only leads to you actually hurting people close to you, that only leads to you. And you see it really, it's funny. He sees his buddy drive off in his fancy car, and got the pretty girl with the fur coat on in his passenger seat, and him and Mary just slowly, walk to his car, and he's got his little car door, which is today's standards, looks like a Fisher-Price car door. I think I had one on my little car when I had a Fisher-Price. And it's like he tries to kick it shut, and it won't shut, and he's looking at his crappy little car, and just man, what did I miss out on? And you see that start taking root. And then I guess I think the next big one was when officially his Uncle Billy loses all the money, making a stupid mistake, which is George, why didn't you take the money, man? Come on. This was a big turning point, and it's apparently in the business, and they were going to get out. They were going to, put it in the bank, and Potter ended up having the money. So, which if I recommend, if you go to SNL, It's a Wonderful Life, and they do a version of them figuring out that Potter had the money. It's pretty funny. I beat up an old man. It's hilarious. Dana Carvey. It's from the 90s, so I think Dana Carvey plays Jimmy Stewart. It's funny. I think John Lovitz plays Mr. Potter. It's hilarious. And then, so he's so down, and you see the hurt, the pain of not just the failure of the business is about to experience because all the money. What could they're going to go to jail? I can't remember what's the legal standing of why, but they're going to go to jail. He's going to go to jail. And you see the hurt, but that's not the only hurt. You see the hurt of he's got all his kids there, his wife, and their house they built that's fallen apart in some ways, but they've put it back together. And you see this wonderful life he has, but you see the weight of his hurt that's been set in from all the disappointments. Either others disappointing him, opportunities lost, things that he wanted to do and didn't do for whatever reason. And they were really good reasons. I think for a lot of us, there's a lot of things we didn't do because we were scared. Where George, he wasn't scared. People needed him. And that was what's really powerful. He was a man of character. He's a faithful friend, a faithful leader, a faithful son, a faithful brother. helping others achieve their dreams despite his lack of achieving his dreams. I mean, that's what's so powerful. That's what to show love to somebody is you sacrifice your dreams so someone else can achieve their dream. Whew, that's a big deal. So I mean, that's what's powerful about this story. But you see that towards the kind of the climax in the movie, and then not too long after, Potiphar offers him a job somehow, and you see him, you're like, George, don't do it. But then he has this wake up moment, and he chews him out, and it's a big deal because he realizes his character kind of sets in that he's not sitting here thinking about what he couldn't have had and all the disappointment and all the, I think he's seeing it as failure. Really, that's what happens sometimes when we choose our character over our ambitions, we see life as a failure because we didn't get to do what we wanted to do, though we made choices out of character. We made choices for others. It's like, God, that's so crazy that we can see our life as a failure because it gets to that at the end of the movie. Anyway, so you see, but this ends up leading to him, the big moment where he says, I don't want to live. He's going to take his own life. And, Clarence saves him. And there's that whole, where he gets a glimpse of his life, which is really just a cool way to tell a story, right? You see your legacy in the negative effect. If you didn't exist, what would have happened? What is the thing down the line? One was like, his brother was a war hero. I think got a Medal of Honor or something because he rescued a bunch of men in World War II. And his brother didn't get that medal because his brother died because what's the line he says? He goes, I'm forgetting his brother's name. Shoot, that's going to bother me. But anyway, he said, George, because Harry. Yeah, Harry. He goes, Harry didn't save those men because you weren't there to save Harry. And it's like, that's one of the first scenes of the movie, and him rescuing his brother from broken ice. And you're just like, wow, such a powerful line. Just the reverberating effects of your life in your legacy when we choose character and we choose others. And I think even when we choose our ambitions, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with ambitions, but there's going to come a point where it's held in tension with the things our core values and our character sometimes. We've got to choose the other, right? So, what's the moral of the story? I think that's what I just said, right? Is sometimes our ambitions can come in conflict with our character and our core values. How do we help others? Because that's the end. That's where I want to get to. The ending line of the movie is, "No man is a failure who has friends." George saw all those missed opportunities, all those lack of the inability to chase his ambitions because he chose character. He saw his life as a failure. But here he's surrounded by so many people that love him, care for him, even admire him. Like, that's what's so powerful. It's like he helps so many people that they admire him. They look up to him. But he saw his life as a failure because he didn't get to do a lot of things he wanted to do. Though he had a wife that loved him, though he had kids that he was crazy about, he had a community that was really resting upon his choices, the power of his choice and his character, which is like, whoo, that's a big deal. So I think that's probably the moral of this story. I want to come to the end. This is the ending point I'm going to get to right here. I think I'm 20 minutes in here. Is this. We have to define what is success for our life. The trips, they always end. The money, it's always becomes a number, or it's not enough number. Even the positions at our jobs, they're just titles. But what does the success look like? Is it the quality of friendships? Sorry, my fire's going. Ooh, that was a bad one. Is the quality of friendships, the quality of people around us, the impact we have on a city, how much we've put aside for others in our life, the willingness to engage despite our discomfort, despite our disappointment, despite our hurt, the willingness to love. There's so many things that we can define success that is more intangible versus tangible. The tangible is cheap. It's low. It can be really good. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a good trip. I love getting a check. It feels good to earn money. There's no doubt about that. And I think that's not always in a bad way. I think we were designed to earn, to provide, right? As well as in the extravagant sense of paying for good things in our life that add to our life, not take away from it. So, but I think but that's not success. What is success? That is what's such a big deal for us, that we have to maintain in the midst of missed opportunity, lack of reaching our ambitions or getting to do the things that we're passionate about, that we got to continually to redefine it and what is the driving force in it. So anyway, I've talked enough. Hope this made sense. And please rate, review, check out other episodes, my interviews. Like I said, me and Grant Skeldon talked about it. He said that was one of his early influences, was George Bailey. That was episode 47. Check that one out. A lot of good content. I'm going to keep coming with y'all some content. So please rate and review on Apple. Please follow on Spotify. Subscribe on YouTube. As well as join my newsletter, because I'll give detailed notes of each episode, each interview, and I send it out every Monday. So please check that out. And I'll send out other things as well as some other things I'm doing, as well as some other content. So check out mentorforge.com, and I'll see y'all next time.